Hello guys, welcome to Saiyan What Ifs. So in this video, we will see, what if Goku unlocked true limit breaker form? If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1. Beyond Instinct. Silence enveloped the sacred world of the Kai like a living entity. The peculiar magenta sky stretched boundlessly overhead, punctuated by wisps of clouds that barely moved in the still air. The sweet fragrance of ancient fruit trees mingled with the earthy scent of grass that had grown uninterrupted for millennia. At the center of a verdant clearing, Son Goku sat cross-legged, eyes closed. His weathered gi moving slightly with each measured breath. The scars on his hands, testament to countless battles, caught the golden light that filtered through the sacred trees. His usual carefree expression had given way to one of unusual concentration, brows furrowed as sweat beaded along his temple despite the perfect climate. Within Goku's mindscape, something unprecedented was occurring. Images flickered through his consciousness. Stars collapsing, universes being born, timelines splitting and converging like rivers of light. Voices he couldn't identify whispered truths he couldn't comprehend. Each time he reached for Ultra Instinct's familiar embrace, it slipped through his grasp, replaced by something deeper, more volatile, and vastly more powerful. "Something's missing," he murmured, the words barely escaping his lips. 50 feet away, Whis observed with uncharacteristic solemnity. The angel's staff pulsed with azure energy that matched the rhythm of Goku's fluctuating ki. His normally placid features betrayed the slightest hint of concern. "It's happening sooner than expected," Whis said to himself, ancient eyes tracking energy patterns invisible to mortal perception. The ground beneath Goku began to tremble. Small stones levitated around him, disintegrating into dust as his energy unconsciously intensified. The air shimmered with heat. At distortion though no flame was visible. "Goku," Whis called, his melodic voice cutting through the Saiyan's meditation. "That's enough for today." Goku's eyes snapped open, momentarily flickering between their natural black and something else, a color beyond the spectrum, a glimpse of potential not yet realized. He blinked, and it vanished. "Whis, I was just getting somewhere interesting." Goku jumped to his feet with characteristic enthusiasm that belied the intensity of moments prior. He stretched, joints popping as he rotated his shoulders. Something weird was happening. Ultra Instinct felt incomplete somehow. The angel approached with measured steps, staff tapping rhythmically against the ancient ground. "Incomplete? How fascinating. Please elaborate." Goku scratched his head, struggling to translate intuition into words. "It's like, when I first learned to sense ki, and suddenly realized there was this whole layer to fighting I'd been missing. Except bigger." His calloused fingers spread wide, mimicking an explosion. "Way bigger. Like I've been looking at everything through a tiny window, and something's trying to shatter the glass." Whis' expression remained neutral, but his grip on his staff tightened imperceptibly. "I see. You don't sound surprised," Goku observed, suddenly perceptive in a way that caught even the angel off guard. "Walk with me." Whis turned abruptly, heading toward the edge of the clearing where the landscape dropped away into bottomless azure clouds. They moved in silence for several minutes, Goku unusually patient, sensing the gravity of the moment. At the precipice, Whis waved his staff, creating a viewing portal that revealed the countless universes floating in the cosmic ocean of existence. "What do you see, Goku?" Whis asked, voice soft yet penetrating. "Universes. Lots of them." Goku peered closer, expression changing as new details emerged. "Wait. They're moving differently than before. Some are getting closer together, others pulling apart. And those colors between them weren't there last time." Whis nodded approvingly. "Your perception improves. The multiverse is experiencing unusual fluctuations. Barriers between realities have begun to thin." The portal shifted, focusing on a nexus point where several universe bubbles nearly touched. Within that convergence point, shadows moved with disturbing intention, ties with no discernible form yet radiating malevolence. "What are those?" Goku leaned closer, every warrior instinct suddenly alert. "That," Whis replied, "is why your meditation was interrupted. They sensed you." Goku stepped back, confusion evident in his furrowed brow. "Sensed me? But I wasn't doing anything special." Weren't you? Whis dispelled the viewing portal with a casual flick. Goku. There exists an ancient prophecy. One rarely discussed even among the divine hierarchy. It speaks of a mortal who would touch the realm of gods, only to discover it was merely another stepping stone. The Saiyan's expression shifted from confusion to intrigue. Fighting had always been his primary language, and the prospect of something beyond even divine power made his heart race with anticipation rather than fear. Ultra Instinct, impressive as it may be, was never meant to be your final evolution. Whis continued, turning to face Goku fully. It is a technique of the gods, and while you have adapted it remarkably, your potential extends elsewhere. Elsewhere? You mean there's something even beyond Ultra Instinct? Excitement coursed through Goku's voice, his entire body tensing with anticipation. Not beyond, Whis corrected. Different. The gods separate body, mind, and spirit to achieve their powers. Your path may be integration rather than separation. Before Goku could question further, the air between them fractured with a sound like shattering glass. Reality itself seemed to splinter, revealing a swirling vortex of temporal energy. Most concerning timing, Whis murmured, raising his staff defensively. Goku, prepare yourself. From the fracture emerged a figure, humanoid but clearly not human. A woman with deep crimson skin and flowing silver hair that moved as if underwater stepped through the rift. Her eyes were entirely black except for pinpoints of white light that served as pupils. She wore armor reminiscent of Saiyan design but constructed of materials Goku had never seen, metals that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. Universe 7, she stated, her voice simultaneously musical and grating. Earth variant, primary timeline. Her gaze fixed on Goku. Son Goku. The catalyst. Goku dropped instantly into his fighting stance, ki flaring around him like golden flame. Who are you? The woman made no aggressive move. Instead, she knelt, pressing her fist to the ground in what appeared to be deference. I am Vila, observer third rank of the Oblivion Council. I come to witness the beginning. Beginning of what? Goku demanded, not relaxing his guard despite her seemingly peaceful approach. The convergence, she replied cryptically. Standing once more, she focused on Whis. The angels were warned. The barriers weaken. The void hungers. Whis' normally composed expression faltered. It's too soon. The preparation sequence hasn't. Time fractures do not adhere to schedules, Vila interrupted. The catalyst has accelerated events. Her impossible eyes returned to Goku. You reach for what cannot be given, only taken. The consequences ripple outward. Goku looked between them, frustration mounting. Can somebody explain what's happening in normal words? A new voice entered the conversation. Deep, authoritative, feminine. She means your meditation sessions are punching holes in reality, Saiyan. All three turned to witness another rift forming. Smaller than the first but somehow more stable. Through this opening stepped a woman whose heritage was immediately recognizable to Goku despite never having seen her before. The proud posture, the muscular yet elegant physique, the unmistakable tail wrapped around her waist. A Saiyan woman, though unlike any he had encountered. Her skin was the rich brown of sun-baked earth, marked W.I.T.H. ritual scarification in geometric patterns. Instead of traditional armor, she wore form-fitting midnight blue garments with silver symbols woven throughout. Her eyes were amber, unusual for a Saiyan, and her black hair was braided elaborately, adorned with small silver beads that clinked softly as she moved. Ayana of Universe 13, Vila acknowledged without surprise. Another fragment falls into place. The Saiyan woman, Ayana, ignored the Crimson Observer, focusing entirely on Goku. She circled him slowly, examining him with critical intensity. So this is the legendary Son Goku of Universe 7, she mused. Her voice carrying the slightest accent Goku couldn't place. I expected someone taller. Despite the tension, Goku couldn't help but grin. Sorry to disappoint. You're a Saiyan, right? But I've never seen markings like yours before. I am Ayana, last keeper of the Saiyan Mystic Order, she replied, completing her circle to stand before him. In my universe, a faction of our people chose knowledge over conquest. We studied Ki as philosophy rather than merely a weapon. Whis cleared his throat delicately. Fascinating as these introductions are, perhaps we should address the significant matter of reality fracturing around us. As if summoned by his words, the ground beneath them trembled violently. The peaceful sky of the sacred world darkened as if suddenly plunged into night. Though no stars appeared, only absolute blackness. "The void approaches," Vila stated, her emotionless tone contrasting sharply with the dire pronouncement. "This dimension will collapse within minutes." "Collapse?" Goku looked to Whis for confirmation. "What about the Supreme Kai?" "Already evacuated," the angel assured him. "I sensed the disturbance and ensured his safety first." Ayana stepped forward. Her amber eyes narrowed. "We need to stabilize this dimensional pocket before the fracture spreads to connected realities." Her hands began to glow with golden energy as she traced complex patterns in the air. "I can establish a temporary barrier, but I'll need power, more than I possess alone." Without hesitation, Goku moved to her side. "Tell me what to do." "Channel your energy through me," she instructed. Surprisingly direct. "Not your transformation energy, your base ki, in its purest form." Goku placed his hand on her shoulder, focusing on the flow of his natural energy. The sensation was strange. Unlike passing energy to others during battle, this felt more intimate, as if she were somehow filtering his power through her very being. "Remarkable," she murmured, almost to herself. "Your ki has unusual properties, like it's been repeatedly transformed and purified." "Years of breaking limits will do that," Goku replied with unexpected modesty. As their combined energy formed a protective dome around them, Vila approached Whis, speaking in lowered tones. "The council did not authorize my intervention, Angel. I am merely here to observe and report. Yet here you stand, in clear violation of your mandate," Whis noted with surprising sharpness. "How curious. The convergence changes all rules," she responded cryptically. "Even for those who write them." Outside their protective bubble, reality continued to deteriorate. The ground crumbled away into nothingness, replaced by a swirling maelstrom of energy, neither light nor darkness but the absence of both. Within this void, shapes began to coalesce, writhing tentacles of antimatter, reaching toward their sanctuary with predatory intent. "We need to move," Ayana shouted over the deafening howl of dimension collapse. "This barrier won't hold." "Where to?" Goku called back. "Everything's disappearing." "There." She pointed toward what appeared to be a small tear in space, a glimpse of somewhere else, somewhere stable. "A natural dimensional fold. If we can reach it before this pocket collapses entirely, we can escape." Whis raised his staff. "I can transport us." "No." Ayana cut him off sharply. L transit will only accelerate the collapse. We must move through conventional space." The distance to the dimensional fold wasn't great, perhaps 100 yards, but the journey was anything but straightforward. As more of reality dissolved around them, gravity itself became unstable. One moment they were running normally, the next floating weightlessly, then suddenly crushed to the ground by 10 times normal gravity. "The fold is shrinking," Vila observed dispassionately. "Dimensional equilibrium seeks to assert itself." A massive tentacle of void matter smashed against their barrier, causing the protective energy to flicker dangerously. The impact knocked Ayana off balance, breaking her concentration momentarily. "I can't maintain the barrier while moving at this speed," she admitted through gritted teeth. Sweat pouring down her face as she struggled to reinforce their protection. Goku made an instant decision. "Then I'll handle the barrier." He placed both hands on her shoulders from behind. "Show me the pattern." "It took me decades to master this technique," she protested. "I'm a quick study," he replied with absolute confidence. With no time to argue, Ayana quickly guided him through the essential elements of the energy pattern. To her astonishment, Goku replicated the complex energy manipulation after seeing it just once. "How did you?" she began. "Fighting's my first language," he said with a wink. "Now go. I'll be right behind you." As Ayana, Whis and Vila pushed forward toward the rapidly contracting dimensional fold, Goku maintained the barrier alone. Each step became increasingly difficult as reality itself rejected their presence. The void tentacles multiplied, hammering relentlessly against their protection. 50 yards from safety, the first tendril broke through, lashing across Goku's arm. The pain was unlike anything he'd experienced, not burning or freezing but somehow both simultaneously, combined with the sensation of his very atoms being unraveled. "Goku," Ayana called back, seeing him falter. "Keep going," he shouted, his voice strained but determined. With his free hand, he fired a concentrated ki blast that temporarily dispersed the tendril. But 3 more immediately took its place. The barrier was failing faster than he could reinforce it. 20 yards from the fold, another tendril penetrated their protection, wrapping around Goku's leg. The pain drove him to one knee. Yet somehow he maintained the barrier around the others. Foolish mortal, Vila said, though for the first time, emotion, something like concern, tinged her voice. You cannot save others by sacrifice here. The void will consume you entirely. No afterlife, no reincarnation, simply non-existence. Through clenched teeth, Goku managed a pained smile. Wouldn't be the first time I've faced impossible odds. Quote, with a tremendous effort, he channeled ki directly into his leg, severing the void tendril at great personal cost. The energy drain was massive, he could feel his reserves depleting rapidly as more tendrils broke through his weakening defenses. 10 yards from safety, Ayana reached the fold first, turning to help the others. Hurry, Whis passed through next, followed by Vila. Only Goku remained, surrounded now by writhing tendrils that tore at his flesh and energy simultaneously. 5 yards. Goku could barely stand. The barrier had collapsed entirely. Only his flaring aura kept the void at bay for precious seconds. His vision blurred as he fought to remain conscious. Goku. Ayana reached back through the fold, her hand extended toward him. Take my hand. With one final surge of determination, Goku lunged forward, fingers stretching toward hers. A massive void tendril wrapped around his torso, pulling him backward with irresistible force. Air fingertips touched. Almost. Not quite connecting. No. Ayana's scream echoed as Goku was yanked away from salvation. Enveloped in void matter, pain consuming every fiber of his being, Goku faced annihilation. Not death. He'd experienced that before, but true cessation of existence. In this moment of ultimate crisis, something deep within him responded to the primal need for survival. His mind ashed back to Whis' words, your path may be integration rather than separation. As consciousness began to fade, Goku stopped fighting the pain. Instead, he embraced it, accepted it, integrated it into his being. Where Ultra Instinct required emptying oneself, this required becoming more fully present than ever before. I understand now, he whispered to the void. Within the maelstrom of his disintegrating ki, a new pattern emerged, not the silver blue of Ultra Instinct nor the golden radiance of Super Saiyan, but something entirely different. Energy that seemed to both absorb and emit light simultaneously, creating an aura of depth rather than brilliance. The void tendrils recoiled as if burned. Goku's body began to reconstitute itself, molecules reasserting their proper relationships. His hair remained black but seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. His eyes shifted to a deep purple with concentric rings pulsing outward like ripples in still water. With newfound awareness that extended beyond physical senses, Goku perceived the dimensional fold, now just a pinprick of light in the surrounding chaos. Distance suddenly seemed an arbitrary concept rather than a true limitation. He simply moved, not through space but somehow adjacent to it. On the other side of the fold, Ayana stared in disbelief as reality tore open from an unexpected direction and Goku stepped through, transformed. Radiating power unlike anything she had ever encountered. They stood in what appeared to be a vast, empty training hall, white floors, walls, and ceiling stretching to apparent infinity. The hyperbolic time chamber, Goku realized, though how they had reached this particular sanctuary remained unclear. Fascinating, Whis murmured, studying Goku with intense interest. Not at all what I expected, yet perfectly aligned with the prophecy. Goku looked down at his hands, observing the strange energy that flowed over and through them. This feeling, it's different from Ultra Instinct. Not separate from me, but more fully me than I've ever been. Ayana approached cautiously, her amber eyes wide with something between fear and reverence. You should be dead, or worse. The void leaves nothing behind. Goku smiled, the expression somehow both familiar and profoundly changed. I stopped trying to escape it and started understanding it instead. He flexed his fingers, watching the unusual energy respond instantly to his intention. It's like all my transformations at once, but also something completely new. The true limit breaker form, Vila stated, the pinpoints of light in her eyes pulsing rapidly. "The Oblivion Council will be displeased. They can get in line," came a new voice from behind them, cultured, aristocratic, with a hint of barely constrained anger. All four turned to find another newcomer standing at the entrance to the chamber. A woman of striking appearance, tall and powerfully built yet undeniably graceful. Her skin was pale lavender, contrasting with short cropped hair of deepest black. She wore formal attire reminiscent of a military uniform, though clearly designed for combat mobility. Most notably, her eyes were golden with distinctive diamond-shaped pupils that marked her as something other than human. "Solaria," Vila acknowledged with the slightest incline of her head. "Former destroyer candidate of Universe 6. Observer," Solaria replied coolly. Her attention shifted immediately to Goku, eyes narrowing as she assessed his transformed state. "So, you're the cause of the dimensional disturbance that interrupted my meditation halfway across the multiverse." Goku's transformation receded slightly, though a subtle aura of depth remained around him. He returned to his usual appearance, albeit with lingering traces of the change in his eyes. "Sorry about that. Wasn't exactly intentional. Few catastrophes are," she replied dryly. With measured steps, she approached him, maintaining perfect posture that spoke of extensive martial training. "Do you have any conception of what you've done? The barriers between universes are meant to be impermeable for a reason." "The barriers were already weakening," Ayana interjected, stepping protectively closer to Goku. His transformation was a response, not the cause. Solaria's gaze flicked briefly to the other Saiyan woman, assessing her with military precision before dismissing her just as quickly. "A convenient interpretation. The fact remains that his energy signature has changed fundamentally. It resonates across dimensions in ways that shouldn't be possible." "Perhaps," Whis suggested diplomatically, "we might continue this discussion in more appropriate surroundings. The hyperbolic time chamber isn't designed for extended occupation by this many individuals." Without waiting for agreement, he tapped his staff once on the immaculate floor. Reality shifted around them, reconstructing into the familiar environment of Beerus's planet, specifically, the verdant area surrounding the deity's temple. As the transportation completed, they found themselves facing the god of destruction himself, who appeared to have been awakened from a nap judging by his irritable expression. Seijan and the imprint of a pillow still visible on one side of his face. "This had better be important," Beerus growled, ears twitching in annoyance. "I was having the most delightful dream about a planet made entirely of pudding." His complaints died abruptly as he registered the assembled group, particularly Goku's residual transformation energy and the presence of two individuals who definitely should not have been in his universe. "What," he demanded slowly, "is a Universe 6 destroyer candidate and an observer doing in my domain?" His eyes narrowed dangerously. "And why does Goku smell like the void?" "That," said yet another unexpected voice, "is precisely what I came to explain." A small portal of swirling green light opened beside them, and through it stepped a diminutive woman. With pink skin and white hair styled in a distinctive mohawk. Despite her youthful appearance, her eyes carried the weight of eons. "Supreme Kai of Time," Beerus acknowledged with unusual respect. "Chronoa, this must be serious indeed if you're making personal appearances." "More serious than you know, Lord Beerus." Chronoa's voice was surprisingly mature given her childlike appearance. "She served," yet the gathered individuals with critical assessment. "Though I see the key players have already assembled themselves." "How efficient." Goku, feeling overwhelmed by the rapid succession of arrivals and revelations, raised his hand like a confused student. Can someone please explain what's happening? Who are all these people, and what's this void everyone keeps mentioning?" Chronoa sighed, though not unkindly. "Always direct to the point, son Goku." "Very well." She waved her hand, creating a three-dimensional projection of the multiverse in miniature. "What you experienced today is merely he first tremor in what will become a multiversal earthquake." The projection showed the 12 universes of their cosmos, but between them, dark fissures had begun to form, tiny at first, then widening as the visualization progressed. "The barriers between dimensions have always been semi-permeable," she explained, allowing authorized transit via specific methods, angel transportation, time rings, designated pathways. But something has changed. Whis stepped forward, staff illuminating in response to the presentation. The natural equilibrium is destabilizing. Realities that should remain distinct are bleeding into one another. Convergence, Vila stated flatly. As the council predicted. Yes, but centuries too soon, Cronoa countered sharply. Your precious council's timetable has been accelerated, observer. I suspect not entirely by accident. The cryptic accusation hung in the air, creating tangible tension. Vela's expression remained unreadable, but the pinpoints of light in her eyes pulsed more rapidly. The void, Beerus interjected, returning to Goku's original question, is the nothingness between universes. Not space as mortals understand it, but the absence of existence itself. It hungers for the energy of creation and will consume anything it touches. His gaze fixed on Goku with new intensity. Which makes your survival rather interesting, Saiyan. He didn't just survive, Ayana added quietly. He transformed within it, integrated it somehow. Solaria, who had been silently observing, suddenly laughed, a sound both beautiful and slightly terrifying. Of course he did, because Son Goku never met a boundary he didn't feel compelled to shatter. Despite her words, a reluctant admiration tinged her voice. The true limit breaker form, Cronoa confirmed, nodding. A transformation beyond divine categorization. Neither mortal nor god but something, adjacent. Can I do it again? Goku asked, practical as always. It happened so fast, I'm not sure I could repeat it deliberately. That, Whis said with unusual gravity, is both the question of the hour and perhaps the multiverse's greatest concern. Before further discussion could occur, the ground beneath them trembled violently. The peaceful sky above Beerus's planet darkened ominously, clouds swirling in unnatural patterns. Another convergence point forming, Cronoa announced, alarmed. But, this makes no sense, it's too soon for secondary manifestation. From the turbulent sky, a massive tear appeared, similar to the dimensional fracture from earlier but exponentially larger. Through this vast opening poured creatures of nightmare, void matter shaped into predatory forms with too many limbs and too few features. They descended upon the planet in terrifying numbers. Void wraiths, Vila named them. Finally showing emotion, genuine fear. They shouldn't be able to manifest in such numbers outside a complete collapse point. Well, they clearly didn't get that memo, Beerus snarled, his body glowing with the purple energy of destruction as he launched himself skyward to meet the threat. Solaria moved with shocking speed, positioning herself back to back with Beerus despite their supposed rivalry. Containment protocol, she called to him. Perimeter destruction pattern. The god of destruction nodded curtly, and together they began systematically eliminating void wraiths with perfectly synchronized destruction energy. Their fighting styles complemented each other flawlessly, Beerus's feline agility paired with Solaria's precision strikes. On the ground, Whis erected a protective barrier around himself and Cronoa, who was frantically consulting a small device that projected temporal data. The timeline is fragmenting faster than predicted, she muttered. Convergence points are multiplying exponentially. Ayana grabbed Goku's arm, her expression urgent. You need to transform again. Your true limit breaker form might be the only energy signature that can repel these entities. I don't know how, Goku admitted, frustration evident as he blasted 3 approaching wraiths with conventional ki attacks that seemed to merely slow them down rather than destroy them. Yes, you do, she insisted. I saw it happen. You stopped fighting the void and accepted it instead. Integration, not opposition. Vila moved to stand beside them, her crimson skin now glowing faintly as if illuminated from within. The Saiyan mystic speaks truth. Observer protocol forbids intervention, but she paused, seeming to come to a decision. The convergence changes all rules. Even mine. With shocking suddenness, she pressed her palm against Goku's forehead. The contact sent him reeling mentally as information flooded his consciousness, concepts beyond mortal understanding, the true nature of the void. The mechanics of dimensional integrity. Remember, she commanded, her voice resonating at multiple frequencies simultaneously. Goku staggered backward, overwhelmed by the influx of cosmic knowledge. Images flashed before his eyes. The birth of universes, the death of timelines, the eternal dance of creation and destruction. Within this chaotic stream of information, he recognized the pattern he'd discovered during his near dissolution in the void. Above them, Beerus and Solaria were being steadily overwhelmed. For every void wraith they destroyed, 3 more emerged from the dimensional tier. Even their divine power had limits, and those limits were rapidly approaching. Goku! Beerus shouted down, genuine concern breaking through his usual arrogance. If you have some new trick up your sleeve, now would be the time. Drawing a deep breath, Goku centered himself. Rather than pushing his energy outward as he would for typical transformations, he turned his awareness inward, finding the core of his being where all his experiences, transformations, and potential existed simultaneously. Integration, he murmured, understanding flooding through him. Unlike the desperate transformation in the void, this change came with deliberate intention. His power didn't explode outward but rather intensified inward before expanding in controlled waves. His hair remained black, but once again took on that peculiar light-absorbing quality. His eyes shifted to deep purple with concentric rings that pulsed with cosmic awareness. The energy surrounding him defied simple description. Neither the raw power of Super Saiyan, the divine aura of God forms, nor the serene perfection of Ultra Instinct. Instead, it manifested as depth incarnate, as if Goku himself had become a window into something infinite. The nearest void wraiths recoiled instantly, their formless bodies contorting in what appeared to be pain or fear. The transformation continued to stabilize, each pulse of energy extending farther from Goku's body and affecting more of the invading entities. With newfound awareness, Goku perceived the dimensional tear itself, not just visually but on multiple levels of existence simultaneously. He understood its structure, its purpose, and most importantly, its vulnerability. I can close it, he stated with absolute certainty, his voice carrying unusual resonance. Without waiting for response, he ascended, not flying in the conventional sense but rather shifting his position in relation to space itself. One moment he stood on the ground, the next he hovered directly before the massive rift. The void wraiths sensed his intention and swarmed toward him in desperate fury. Beerus and Solaria moved to intercept them, creating a defensive perimeter around Goku despite their exhaustion. Whatever you're planning, Saiyan, do it quickly. Solaria shouted, her formal speech pattern cracking under pressure. Goku raised both hands toward the dimensional tier. With his enhanced perception, he could see the edges of reality fraying like torn fabric. Drawing on his new understanding, he began to manipulate energy in ways that defied conventional key application. Rather than force or destruction, he employed resonance, matching the frequency of stable reality and amplifying it, allowing the natural order to reassert itself. The tear began to contract, its edges knitting together as if guided by invisible hands. The remaining void wraiths howled in soundless rage as their connection to the void diminished. They redoubled their attacks, breaking through the defensive line to reach Goku directly. Without looking away from his work, Goku extended one hand behind him. A sphere of his unique energy formed, not a destructive blast but a harmonic wave that passed through the wraiths, temporarily aligning their chaotic essence with ordered reality. The creatures dissolved, not destroyed but rather reintegrated into the natural cosmic flow. Impossible, Vila whispered from below, genuine awe breaking through her detached demeanor. He's not just closing the tear, he's healing it. Indeed, as the dimensional rift sealed completely, the area around it appeared stronger than before, reality reinforced rather than merely patched. Goku descended slowly, the extraordinary transformation still radiating from his being. When his feet touched the ground, he stumbled slightly, the vast energy evidently taking a toll despite his incredible stamina. That was, he began, searching for words to describe the experience. Revolutionary, Whis finished for him, approaching with uncharacteristic caution. You didn't simply overpower the dimensional instability, you corrected it. Even the gods cannot heal reality in such a manner. Beerus landed nearby, his usual hty demeanor subdued by genuine surprise. What exactly are you becoming, Goku? Before the Saiyan could attempt to answer, Chronoa stepped forward, her small device now projecting a complex temporal map. Something necessary, she stated firmly. The convergence is accelerating across all timelines. What happened here was merely a preview of what's coming. The Oblivion Council anticipated this, Vila added, her tone accusatory as she glanced at the Supreme Kai of Time. Yet you Time Guardians insisted the prophecy was centuries from fulfillment. Because it should have been. Chronoa snapped back. Something, or someone, has interfered with the natural progression. Throughout this exchange, Ayana had been silently observing Goku, studying his transformed state with intense focus. Now she approached him, unintimidated by the cosmic power he radiated. "In my universe," she said quietly, "the mystic order foresaw the coming of one who would transcend all limits, not through combat alone, but through understanding." Her amber eyes met his purple ones directly. "We called this being the Nexus, one who could stand at the crossroads of all possibilities." "Great," Goku replied with unexpected humor, hints of his usual personality shining through the profound transformation. "Another prophecy. Just what I needed." His attempt at lightness broke some of the tension, earning a reluctant smile from Ayana and an outright laugh from Solaria, who had joined their circle. "You're taking this remarkably well," the Universe 6 warrior observed. "Most beings would be crushed under the weight of such cosmic responsibility." Goku shrugged, the motion causing ripples in his unusual aura. "Getting worked up about it won't help. Besides," he added with characteristic optimism, "this new form feels amazing. Like I've been fighting with blindfolds all my life and finally can see clearly." "That's precisely what concerns me," Beerus interjected, ears flattening slightly. "Power of this magnitude comes with consequences, Goku. The multiverse maintains balance through carefully established hierarchies. Your transformation potentially disrupts that entire system." "The system," Chrono pointed out sharply, "is already collapsing. The Convergence cares nothing for our carefully established hierarchies, Lord Beerus." As they debated, Goku's transformation began to recede gradually, not from exhaustion but seemingly by his own choice. The light-absorbing quality of his hair faded, his eyes returned to their natural black, and the profound aura of depth diminished until only traces remained. "Sorry," he said, noticing their surprised expressions. "It's a lot to maintain consciously. Need more practice." "Indeed," Whis agreed. "Mastery of such a form will require training beyond anything you've experienced previously." He tapped his staff thoughtfully against the ground. "The question becomes, who is qualified to guide such training?" "I am," Ayana stated without hesitation. "As am I," Solaria added. Surprising everyone, the two women regarded each other with immediate wariness, sizing up potential competition. The tension between them was palpable, two powerful warriors with entirely different approaches to strength and discipline. The Saiyan mystic order specialized in understanding Ki as cosmic philosophy, Ayana elaborated, breaking the standoff. "My knowledge could help Goku comprehend the theoretical aspects of his transformation. While I," Solaria countered smoothly, "can provide the practical combat application that only a destroyer candidate could offer." Philosophy means nothing if one cannot apply it effectively in battle. "Both approaches have merit," Whis interceded diplomatically. "This new transformation appears to integrate multiple aspects rather than focusing on a single attribute. Diverse training would seem appropriate." Goku, who had been following the conversation with uncharacteristic thoughtfulness, suddenly tensed. His gaze shifted to the horizon, eyes narrowing in concentration. "Something's coming," he announced quietly. The others fell silent, extending their senses outward. Moments later, they felt it too, a disturbance in reality. Different from the void tear but equally concerning. The very air seemed to shiver, molecules vibrating at dissonant frequencies. "Another convergence point?" Chrono questioned, consulting her device frantically. "No," Vila replied, her expression showing genuine alarm for the first time. "Something worse, something impossible." On the horizon, a figure appeared, humanoid, walking calmly. Tawa rode them across the landscape of Beerus's planet. As the figure drew closer, its features became discernible, and a collective shock ran through the assembled group. It was Goku, or rather, something wearing Goku's form like an ill-fitting garment. This doppelganger had Goku's face and build, but its movements were wrong, too fluid, too precise, lacking the distinctive fighter's gait of the original. Its GI was identical but seemed to absorb light in unnatural ways. Most disturbing were its eyes, completely black with no whites or pupils, like windows into the void itself. The duplicate stopped 30 paces away, its head tilting at an unnatural angle as it surveyed them with those empty eyes. When it spoke, its voice was Goku's yet overlaid with a harmonic distortion that raised hackles. "Catalyst," it greeted, focusing on the real Goku. You have begun the process. This pleases us. Who are you? Goku demanded, instinctively shifting into a defensive stance. The entity's face formed a smile that never reached its eyes. We are the inevitable, the correction, the shadow cast by your new light. It gestured casually around itself. As you reshape reality, we manifest to maintain equilibrium. A shadow self, Vila whispered, horror evident in her voice. The Oblivion Council theorized their existence but never confirmed it. Theoretical no longer, the entity replied, clearly hearing her despite the distance. As the catalyst breaks limits, we ensure consequences follow. Its black gaze returned to Goku. For every advancement, a price must be paid. For every boundary crossed, a guardian must emerge. Beerus stepped forward, destruction energy gathering around his hand. Whatever you are, you've made a grave mistake entering my domain uninvited. The Shadow Goku's smile widened fractionally. God of destruction, your jurisdiction is recognized but irrelevant to our purpose. It made a dismissive gesture. We come only to deliver a message to the catalyst. Then deliver it and depart, Whis commanded. His usually pleasant tone hardened with authority. The entity bowed with mocking formality. The message is thus: what you build, we shall unmake. What you protect, we shall threaten. What you love, it paused significantly, gaze sweeping over Ayana and Solaria, we shall claim. The true test of limits lies not in power but in consequence. Without warning, its form blurred, moving with impossible speed directly toward Goku. Before anyone could react, it stood before him, close enough to touch. We are your shadow, catalyst, it whispered, voice suddenly intimate. Born of the void you survived, shaped by the limits you break. We will be watching, we will be waiting, and when you falter, we will be ready. Then it was gone, not teleporting or moving but simply ceasing to exist in that space. Leaving behind only a lingering sensation of wrongness in the air. For several long moments, no one spoke. The implications of the entity's appearance and message hung heavy in the atmosphere. Well, Goku finally said, breaking the silence with forced lightness, that was creepy. It was far more than creepy, Beerus snapped, fur still standing on end from the encounter. That thing shouldn't exist. It violated fundamental laws of my universe simply by manifesting. Shadow selves are cosmic impossibilities, Chronoa agreed, her device now flashing with warning signals. They represent reality's attempt to balance extreme anomalies by creating opposing forces. In simple terms, Whis translated, seeing Goku's confusion, your transformation is so significant that reality itself has generated a counterforce, an anti-Goku, if you will. Great, Goku muttered, just what the multiverse needs, an evil me. Not evil, Vila corrected, her composure gradually returning. Balance. It will oppose you not from malice but from cosmic necessity. She paused, seeming to consider something troubling. Though the form it has chosen is concerning. The void influence suggests corruption beyond natural equilibrium. Solaria, who had remained watchful and silent since the entity's departure, finally spoke. Theoretical debates about its nature won't help us prepare for when it returns, and it will return. Her golden eyes fixed on Goku with new intensity. Your training must begin immediately. Not just to master your transformation but to understand its consequences. Agreed, Ayana said, momentarily setting aside her rivalry with Solaria in the face of this new threat. The shadow self mentioned consequences, specifically related to those around you. Her expression softened with unexpected concern. It was a threat, Goku, not just against you, but against anyone you care for. This sobering reality hung in the air between them. For all is extraordinary power and newfound potential, Goku now faced an adversary specifically designed to exploit his connections and commitments. So what do we do? He asked, looking between the assembled beings, gods, angels, time guardians. Warriors from across universes, all brought together by the inexorable tide of convergence. Chronoa stepped forward, her diminutive size belying her cosmic authority. We prepare, we train, we gather allies across the multiverse who can withstand the coming storm. She looked directly at Goku, her ancient eyes reflecting both concern and hope. And you, son Goku, must learn to fully become what you are becoming, not just for power's sake, but because the multiverse itself may depend on your evolution. No pressure, Goku quipped, though the joke fell flat against the gravity of the moment. As if responding to his emotions, flickers of the true limit breaker form manifested briefly, his eyes flashing purple, his aura deepening momentarily before subsiding. I need to understand this form completely, he said with sudden determination. Not just how to access it, but what it means, what it can do, and what responsibilities come with it. He looked at each of them in turn. I'll need all of you to help me. Bold of you to assume we're all willing to serve as your personal trainers, Solaria remarked, though her tone lacked genuine bite. Not trainers, Goku corrected with unexpected insight. Partners. Whatever's happening goes beyond any one of us. That shadow thing wasn't just my problem, it threatened everything. His simple wisdom drew surprised looks from the divine beings present. Whis smiled approvingly, while Beerus merely huffed in reluctant agreement. The Saiyan shows unexpected wisdom, Vila observed. Perhaps the Oblivion Council's projections require adjustment. Quote, first things first, Ayana interjected practically. We need a secure location where Goku can learn to control this new form without risking further dimensional instability. And we need to alert the other universes about what's happening, Solaria added. If convergence points are forming across multiple realities, coordinated response will be essential. Chronoa nodded in agreement. I'll return to the time nest and begin monitoring timeline fractures. The pattern of convergence may reveal the underlying cause, and potentially, how to address it. As they discussed logistics and next steps, Goku found himself studying each of them with newfound perception. Though his transformation had receded, traces of its awareness lingered, allowing him to say, beyond physical appearances to the core energies that defined each being. Whis' calm azure essence concealing depths of power beyond comprehension. Beerus' volatile destruction energy perfectly balanced by creation's influence. Chronoa's temporal signature, shifting and flowing like a river with countless tributaries. Vela's impossible existence, somehow both present and absent simultaneously. Ayana's disciplined ki, refined through generations of mystical practice. Solaria's controlled power, destruction energy tempered by extraordinary will. And beyond them all, the faint echo of his shadow self. Watching from some impossible vantage point between realities. Tomorrow, Goku decided, interrupting their planning. We'll figure everything out tomorrow. Right now, I need food and rest. His stomach growled loudly as if on cue, breaking the tension with mundane reality. Despite the cosmic implications of everything they'd witnessed, the simple statement drew smiles and even a few laughs. Some things, it seemed, remained constant even in the face of multiversal crisis. Some things never change, Whis remarked with fond exasperation. Very well, I believe Lord Beerus's kitchens can accommodate our expanded guest list for one night. As they made their way toward the temple, Goku found himself walking between Ayana and Solaria, the Saiyan mystic and the former destroyer candidate. Both women maintained a careful distance from each other, their rivalry evident despite temporary cooperation. Your Universe 13, Goku said conversationally to Ayana. What's it like? Are there many Saiyans left there? Few, she replied, her expression softening slightly. The mystic order preserved our knowledge through generations of conflict and near extinction. We built sanctuaries in untamed ranges that repel those seeking only battle glory. She glanced at him curiously. In your universe, the Saiyans never developed beyond conquest. Not that I know of, Goku admitted. I was sent to Earth as a baby. So I didn't grow up with Saiyan traditions. Learned everything later, mostly from Vegeta. Prince Vegeta lives in this timeline? Ayana asked, genuine surprise coloring her voice. Yeah, he's my best friend. Well, more like my best rival. Goku grinned. You know him in your universe. Of him, she corrected. The royal bloodline was among the first to oppose the mystic order's philosophy. They saw our pursuit of knowledge as weakness. Solaria, who had been listening silently, finally joined the conversation. In Universe 6, the Saiyans evolved beyond their violent tendencies naturally. They became protectors rather than conquerors. I met some of them during the Tournament of Power, Goku recalled. Kaba, Caulifla, and Kale. They were amazing fighters. Tournament of Power, Solaria repeated, her diamond pupils contracting slightly. Explain. As Goku launched into an enthusiastic recounting of the multiversal tournament, complete with animated hand gestures demonstrating key battles. The three continued toward the temple. Behind them, the divine beings followed at a more measured pace, their conversation considerably more grave. The convergence is only beginning, Chronoa warned quietly. What we witnessed today, the void incursion, the shadow self, these are merely harbingers. The question remains, Whis mused, whether Goku's transformation is causing these events or responding to them. Does it matter? Beerus countered. Either way, we're facing a fundamental restructuring of cosmic order. Vila, walking slightly apart from the others, observed everything with her strange, lightless eyes. The Oblivion Council believes all change must be contained, all anomalies corrected. She paused, watching Goku's animated conversation ahead. Perhaps some anomalies exist because they are necessary. A dangerous perspective for an observer, Chronoa noted with surprising gentleness. Indeed, Vela's expression remained unreadable, yet these are dangerous times. As Beerus's temple came into view, the evening sky above displayed an unusual phenomenon, subtle ripples of energy flowing across the stars like waves on a cosmic ocean. None of them mentioned it, but all recognized the implication. Reality itself was changing, responding to forces beyond their control. The true limit breaker had emerged. The shadow self had manifested. The convergence had begun, and Son Goku, standing at the center of it all, laughed freely as he described past battles to his new companions, blissfully embodying the contradictions of his existence, extraordinary yet ordinary. Powerful yet humble, the catalyst for cosmic change who still just wanted a good meal and a challenging fight. Tomorrow would bring training, planning, and confrontation with forces beyond comprehension. But tonight, there was food, new friends, and the simple pleasure of sharing stories under an increasingly strange sky. Chapter 2. Convergence Points. Chronoa's Realm Exis. Ted in a dimension perpendicular to conventional time. Crystal lakes reflected impossible skies where constellations formed and dissolved like thoughts. Ancient trees with luminescent leaves grew sideways, their branches extending through moments rather than space. The air itself tasted of potential, sweet and electric, like the pause before a thunderstorm. Goku sat cross-legged atop a floating island of emerald grass, eyes closed in meditation. 12 hours had passed since the emergence of his new transformation, though hours held little meaning in this timeless sanctuary. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the perfect climate, evidence of the internal struggle raging beneath his placid exterior. 20 yards away, Ayana observed with critical intensity, her amber eyes tracking energy. Fluctuations invisible to ordinary perception. The ritual scarification patterns on her skin glowed faintly as she channeled her mystic senses. His energetic alignment remains chaotic, she noted to Chronoa, who hovered nearby. The integration remains incomplete. The Supreme Kai of Time nodded, her youthful appearance belied by the ancient wisdom in her eyes. He's trying to force the transformation through willpower alone. Old habits. The Saiyan way, Ayana acknowledged with a hint of resigned disappointment. Always reaching for power before understanding its nature. Between them, Solaria paced with military precision, each step perfectly measured. Her aristocratic features betrayed nothing, but the tension in her shoulders spoke volumes. We're wasting precious time. The Converge. NCE accelerates while we engage in metaphysical exercises. Time is something we have in abundance here, Chronoa reminded her gently. Outside this realm, barely moments have passed. Irrelevant, Solaria replied sharply. Our subjective experience continues linearly. Every hour we spend in philosophical debate is an hour not spent developing practical countermeasures. Across the floating island, Whis stood silently, staff planted in the grass beside him. Unlike the others, his attention wasn't fixed on Goku but rather on the boundaries of Chronoa's realm, where reality thinned to crystalline transparency. Something troubled the angel, though his perfect composure revealed nothing. Goku's eyes snapped open suddenly, frustration evident in the hard set of his jaw. It's not working, he announced, rising to his feet with unusual stiffness. I can feel it there, just out of reach, but every time I grab for it. He made a grasping motion with his hand, then let it fall limply to his side. Because you're trying to conquer it rather than become it, Ayana explained, approaching with measured steps. The silver beads in her elaborately braided hair clinked softly with each movement. The true limit breaker isn't another transformation to be mastered through brute force. It's an evolution of consciousness. That sounds great and all, Goku replied with a hint of his characteristic directness. But how exactly do I evolve my consciousness? Solaria snorted softly. Indeed, such vague mysticism hardly constitutes actionable instruction. Ayana's eyes narrowed at the former destroyer candidate. Perhaps if you'd spent less time learning to destroy and more time understanding what you're destroying, you might grasp the concept. Ladies, Chronoa interceded diplomatically. Your diverse perspectives are precisely why you're both here. Different approaches, same goal. She turned to Goku with unexpected gentleness. Sometimes the path forward requires a step back first. Goku sighed, running a hand through his unruly hair. Look, I appreciate everyone's help, but maybe we're overthinking this. When I first transformed, I wasn't trying to transform at all. I was just accepting what was happening instead of fighting against it. Whis, breaking his contemplative silence, nodded approvingly. Precisely. Ultra instinct requires emptying oneself of thought. This new form seems to demand the opposite, complete presence and acceptance. That aligns with mystic order philosophy, Ayana confirmed reluctantly. Our texts speak of the highest mastery coming not through dominance of ki but through perfect harmony with it. Fascinating theoretical discussion, Solaria interjected, but ultimately academic without practical application. She approached Goku directly, her diamond-pupiled eyes fixed on his with penetrating intensity. You accessed this form under extreme duress. Perhaps controlled danger is the catalyst required. Before anyone could object, Solaria's hand shot forward, striking toward Goku's throat with lethal precision. To everyone's surprise, Goku made no move to dodge or block. Instead, he simply received the attack, his body absorbing and redirecting the kinetic energy without conscious thought. For a split second, his eyes flashed purple with concentric rings. Interesting, Solaria murmured, stepping back. Your body remembers what your mind struggles to grasp. Goku blinked, looking down at himself in surprise. That wasn't Ultra Instinct. It was something else, like I could see your attack from multiple angles simultaneously. Enhanced perception, Whis observed. One aspect of the true limit breaker form. Enhanced but incomplete, Ayana added, studying Goku with renewed interest. A fragment of the whole. Chronoa, W.H.O. had been watching this exchange with scientific curiosity, suddenly stiffened. Her youthful face grew serious as she reached into the folds of her robe to extract a small crystalline device that pulsed with emerald light. Convergence alert, she announced, all traces of childlike demeanor vanishing. A major temporal spatial intersection is forming. Her fingers danced over the device's surface, bringing up a three-dimensional projection. Universe 3, the central technology hub of Sector 9. Mechatopia, Whis identified the location. Universe 3's pride, a metropolis constructed entirely from self-evolving technology. Quote, Goku's expression brightened with characteristic enthusiasm despite the grave implications. So we're heading to Universe 3. Awesome. I never got to see much of it during the tournament. This isn't a sightseeing expedition, Solaria admonished sharply. Actually, Chronoa corrected, studying her device closely, Goku's presence is precisely what's required. The convergence point appears to be responding to true limit breaker energy signatures. We need to understand why. Wait, Ayana interjected, concern evident in her amber eyes. Your sagas. We deliberately expose an unstable convergence point to the very energy potentially causing the instability. Sometimes, Whis noted philosophically, one must introduce controlled chaos to understand its true nature. There's nothing controlled about this situation, Solaria objected. We're operating on theoretical assumptions with multiversal consequences. Chronoa closed her device with a decisive snap. The time for caution has passed. The convergence accelerates whether we act or not. Better to gather data directly than hypothesize while reality crumbles. Her ancient eyes met Goku's. Are you ready? Despite the gravity of the situation, Goku couldn't suppress a grin. Always. I'll inform Lord Beerus of our departure, Whis said, his staff glowing softly as he established communication across dimensions. And Vila? Ayana questioned, looking around the floating island. The observer has been conspicuously absent since our arrival. Observers observe, Chronoa replied cryptically. Their methods rarely involve direct participation. As preparations for departure continued, Goku found himself standing at the edge of the floating island, gazing out at the impossible landscape of Kronoa's realm. Something caught his attention, a subtle distortion in the fabric of reality, like heat waves rising from sun-baked earth. Narrowing his eyes, he focused his perception beyond ordinary sight. There, a presence, neither hidden nor revealed, existing in the liminal space between observation and participation. "I know you're watching," he said quietly, not turning around. For several heartbeats, nothing happened. Then the distortion intensified, coalescing into Vela's distinctive crimson form. The observer regarded Goku with those unsettling eyes, black voids with pinky ricks of light that seemed to peer through him rather than at him. "Perception improves," she noted, her multi-toned voice somehow both melodic and discordant. "The catalyst evolves. Why are you hiding from the others?" Goku asked directly. "Not hiding. Observing." She moved closer, her movements unnaturally fluid. "The council demands non-interference while permitting observation. A contradictee. On that serves neither truth nor purpose." Goku studied her with newfound perception. Beyond her physical form, he glimpsed something vast and incomprehensible, a being of pure cosmic awareness temporarily confined to humanoid shape. "You're not just an observer, are you?" He realized suddenly. "There's something else you're not telling us." For the first time, Vela's composed demeanor faltered. Pinpoints of light in her eyes pulsed rapidly. Perceptive catalyst. Dangerous perception. She moved closer still, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow bypassed his ears and resonated directly in his mind. "When shadows gather and void consumes, remember, reality bends before breaking." Before Goku could question this cryptic warning, Kronoa's voice called from behind. "Goku, we're ready to depart." He turned reflexively toward the sound. When he looked back, Vela had vanished, not teleported but simply ceased to occupy perceptible space. Rejoining the others, Goku found them gathered around Kronoa, who had opened a swirling portal of emerald energy. "Universe 3 awaits," the Supreme Kai of Time announced. Specifically, Mechatopia, Central Date Processing Core. "Wait," Goku interjected. "Shouldn't we bring Vela along? She might know something important." Ayana and Solaria exchanged puzzled glances. "The observer disappeared shortly after our arrival," Ayana explained. "Did you encounter her just now?" Goku nodded, considering whether to share her cryptic warning. Before he could decide, Whis rejoined them, staff glowing with recent communication. "Lord Beerus sends his regards," the angel announced with delicate irony, "and requests that we try not to break the multiverse any further than necessary." "Typical," Kronoa muttered with the familiarity of an ancient colleague. Everyone stepped through together. The dimensional boundaries are particularly thin around convergence points, so maintain physical proximity. As a group, they entered the swirling portal. The transition between dimensions manifested differently for each traveler. Goku experienced it as a momentary expansion of consciousness, as if his awareness briefly touched every point in existence. Simultaneously before contracting back to individual perception. They emerged onto a platform of polished metal that seemed to shift subtly beneath their feet, reconfiguring to better support their weight. Above them stretched a sky unlike any Goku had seen before, a perfect gradient of deep blue to violet, crisscrossed with glowing transit lines along which sleek vehicles moved with silent efficiency. Mechatopia sprawled in every direction, a metropolis of impossible architecture. Buildings grew rather than stood, their surfaces alive with nanobots that continuously optimized form for function. Information flowed visibly through the city's infrastructure, streams of light pulsing through transparent conduits like luminous blood through crystalline veins. "Impressive," Solaria acknowledged grudgingly, her military eye assessing the precision engineering evident in every aspect of their surroundings. Ayana appeared less comfortable, her connection to natural energy seemingly at odds with the hyper-technological environment. "So much artificial construction," she murmured. "How do they perceive ki in such surroundings?" "They don't," Kronoa explained. Universe 3 evolved beyond traditional energy manipulation centuries ago. They interface directly with quantum probability fields through technological enhancement. Goku, momentarily distracted by the technological marvels surrounding them, suddenly stiffened. His newly enhanced senses detected a disturbance, not physical but temporal, like ripples in a pond spreading from a stone not yet thrown. Something's wrong, he announced, interrupting Chronoa's explanation. The time feels stretched here. The Supreme Kai of Time looked sharply at Goku, surprise evident in her ancient eyes. You can sense temporal distortion. That shouldn't be possible for a mortal, even one with your unique abilities. Before Goku could respond, the metal platform beneath them shuddered. Hairline fractures appeared in its surface, glowing with unsettling purple energy. The perfect sky above distorted like a reflection in disturbed water. Convergence point activating, Whis identified, staff pulsing with defensive energy. Earlier than predicted, we need to locate the nexus, Chronoa directed, extracting her crystalline device once more. The temporal fracture can be stabilized, but only at its origin point. The platform beneath them suddenly split with a deafening crack. Goku reacted instinctively, grabbing Chronoa as gravity reasserted itself with vengeful force. The others managed similar emergency maneuvers, Whis aiding a floating platform of energy beneath himself and Solaria, while Iona channeled ki through her feet to achieve temporary levitation. They descended through layers of the technological metropolis, like explorers dropping through the canopy of an unknown jungle. Each level revealed new technological marvels, manufacturing centers where robots built increasingly complex versions of themselves, auto libraries where information existed as three-dimensional holograms that could be physically manipulated, transportation hubs where matter regularly converted to energy and back again for efficient transit. There, Chronoa pointed toward a massive spherical structure suspended in the center of the city. Unlike the elegant designs surrounding it, this sphere appeared brutally utilitarian, a ECT globe of what looked like brushed steel, unmarked except for a single entrance. The probability core, Universe 3's primary quantum computer. Also, Whis added gravely, the exact center of the convergence distortion. As they navigated toward the sphere, the distortions intensified. Buildings phased in and out of reality, occasionally revealing glimpses of other places entirely, a jungle world glimpsed through a temporarily transparent skyscraper, an ocean of mercury visible beneath a suddenly translucent walkway, a crimson desert superimposed over a data processing center. Reality boundaries weakening, Solaria observed with professional detachment that barely concealed her concern. Multiple dimensions bleeding through. Iona moved closer to Goku, her expression troubled. Her energy signature is responding to the convergence, she warned quietly. It's amplifying the effect. Goku nodded, having noticed the phenomenon himself. With each distortion in the surrounding reality, he felt answering pulses within his own ki, resonances that threatened to trigger his transformation. I can feel it wanting to emerge, he admitted. But I'm not sure that's a good idea right now. Controlled exploration might be necessary, Whis suggested. If your true limit breaker form is intrinsically connected to these convergence points, understanding that connection could be crucial. Before they could discuss further, they arrived at the entrance to the probability core. The massive door, circular and reminiscent of a bank vault, stood partially open, as if recently accessed. Within, blue light pulsed in rhythmic patterns. Curious, Whis noted. According to Universe 3 protocols, this facility should be hermetically sealed against unauthorized entry. Yet someone preceded us, Solaria concluded. Her military training evident as she automatically took point position, moving with practiced stealth toward the entrance. As they cautiously entered the sphere, the reason for the security breach became immediately apparent. In the center of the vast circular chamber, surrounded by concentric rings of quantum processing units, stood a figure hunched over a holographic console. The figure wore a form-fitting bodysuit of silver and blue, with mechanical enhancements visible along the spine and limbs. Most notably, half their head appeared cybernetic, an elegant integra. Chion of biological tissue and advanced technology. The figure's fingers danced across the holographic interface with blinding speed, manipulating data streams that orbited around them like electronic constellations. Stop right there, Solaria commanded, her voice carrying the unmistakable authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. The figure froze momentarily, then turned with remarkable grace despite their cybernetic components. The biological half of their face revealed strikingly beautiful features, light purple skin, a single almond-shaped eye of deep amber, and an expression of irritated surprise rather than guilt. Seriously, the cybernetic intruder responded, her voice melodic yet overlaid with subtle harmonics. You choose now to interrupt. I'm kind of in the middle of privé. NTING, a catastrophic dimensional collapse here. Goku recognized her immediately despite the significant differences in appearance. You were in the Tournament of Power. Universe 3. One of the modified warriors. Kamin. She confirmed with a curt nod, her organic eye assessing Goku with new interest. Though I've upgraded substantially since then. She gestured to her partially mechanical body with evident pride. And your son Goku, whose battle data I've been analyzing obsessively since our universe's embarrassing defeat. Chronoa stepped forward, her diminutive stature belied by the cosmic authority she radiated. What exactly are you doing with Universe 3's probability core, Kamin? Preventing reality from unraveling at the seams, Kamin replied without pausing her work at the holographic interface. You know, typical Tuesday stuff. Her fingers continued their elaborate dance across the controls. The quantum fluctuations began 3 hours ago. By the time anyone else noticed, I'd already identified the pattern and initiated containment protocols. Whis approached the console, studying the complex equations and probability matrices with evident appreciation. Impressive work. You've managed to temporarily stabilize the local convergence point. Temporarily being the operative word, Kamin agreed grimly. These algorithms were never designed to handle multi-dimensional variables. I'm basically trying to solve a 12th-dimensional equation with third-dimensional mathematics. Despite her complaints, her expression showed unmistakable intellectual excitement beneath the concern. Goku moved closer, fascinated by the swirling data visualization despite not understanding its significance. As he approached, the holographic display suddenly pulsed brightly, reacting to his presence. What the? Kamin's organic eye widened as new data cascaded across her interface. Your energy signature is directly resonating with the convergence frequency. Her cybernetic components whirred as she turned fully toward Goku, scanning him with built-in sensors. You're emitting quantum patterns I've never seen before. They're beautiful. This last word escaped with RDED wonder before her professional demeanor reasserted itself. And potentially catastrophic. Yeah, we're working on that part, Goku admitted with characteristic directness. Kamin's attention remained fixed on him, her cybernetic eye adjusting its aperture continuously as it gathered data. Your cellular structure has been fundamentally altered at the quantum level, she observed with scientific. I see precision that couldn't quite mask her fascination. You're essentially existing in multiple probability states simultaneously. Is that bad? Goku asked, genuinely curious rather than concerned. Bad. It's impossible, Kamin exclaimed with unexpected enthusiasm. It's like you've become a living quantum uncertainty principle. She reached out impulsively, then caught herself. May I scan you more thoroughly? The data could be crucial to stabilizing the convergence. Before Goku could respond, the probability core shuddered violently. The concentric processing rings surrounding them began rotating at increasing speeds, their blue light shifting toward violet. Convergence acceleration, Whis announced unnecessarily as reality itself began to waver around them. Chronoa's crystalline device flashed urgent warnings. The temporal fracture is widening. Multiple timelines are bleeding through. As if manifesting her words, the chamber around them briefly phased into different versions of itself, one abandoned and decaying. Another enhanced with even more advanced technology, a third partially organic with vines and roots growing through mechanical components. The containment algorithms are failing, Kamin reported, fingers flying across her interface with increasing desperation. We need a quantum anchor point, something that exists consistently across multiple realities to stabilize the dimensional boundaries. All eyes turned to Goku. Me, he questioned, understanding dawning slowly. Because of this new form. Precisely, Whis confirmed. The true limit breaker appears to exist as a nexus point across dimensional boundaries, simultaneously part of all realities while belonging fully to none. Great theory, Solaria interjected practically, but he hasn't demonstrated the ability to transform at will. Ayana moved to Goku's side, her expression resolute. Then we must facilitate the transformation. She placed her palm against his chest, directly over his heart. Quote, the mystic order developed techniques for accessing deeper states of consciousness. With your permission. Goku nodded without hesitation, instinctively trusting her despite their brief acquaintance. Ayana's palm began to glow with golden energy as she closed her eyes in concentration. Breathe with me, she instructed, her voice taking on a ritualistic cadence. Find your center, beyond thought, beyond emotion, beyond identity. Around them, reality continued to fracture. The chamber now resembled a shattered mirror, each fragment reflecting a different version of the same location. Through one fracture, they glimpsed a version of the core consumed by flames. Through another, one submerged beneath unknown liquid. Through a third, one occupied by beings of pure energy rather than solid matter. Whatever you're doing, do it faster, Kamine urged, her cybernetic components straining as she attempted to maintain the failing containment protocols. Dimensional collapse accelerating. Goku closed his eyes, focusing on Ayana's guiding energy. Unlike his previous attempts to force the transformation through willpower, he now followed her lead, turning his awareness inward, seeking not power but understanding. Remember when you first transformed, Ayana murmured, her voice seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere. You stopped fighting against dissolution and began integrating it instead. Integration, Goku repeated, the concept resonating deeply, not conquering the power but becoming one with it. As his consciousness expanded under Ayana's guidance, Goku perceived the multiversal energies flowing through the convergence point, countless realities intersecting, overlapping, each with its own frequency and pattern. Within this chaotic storm of dimensional energy, he recognized something familiar, the unique resonance of his true limit breaker form, like a musical note that harmonized with the cosmic symphony. I can feel it, he whispered. It's not just inside me, it's everywhere. All I need to do is align with it. The chamber shuddered violently as dimensional boundaries continued to deteriorate. Through one particularly large reality fracture, a tendril of void matter reached into their reality, the same consuming nothingness that had nearly claimed Goku before his first transformation. Void breach, Solaria shouted, moving with blinding speed to intercept the intrusion. Her hand glowed with the distinctive energy of a destroyer candidate as she severed the tendril before it could fully materialize. Goku, we're out of time, Chrono urged, her ancient eyes reflecting genuine fear as more fractures appeared throughout the chamber. Within his meditative state, Goku made a profound realization. He'd been approaching the transformation as something to achieve, a state to enter. Now he understood. The true limit breaker wasn't something to become but something he already was, a potential always present within him and throughout reality itself. With his understanding came surrender, not defeat but acceptance. Rather than reaching for the power, Goku simply aligned himself with it, allowing the transformation to emerge naturally from this perfect resonance. The change began subtly. His hair remained black but gradually took on that peculiar light-absorbing quality. His eyes shifted from onyx to deep purple with concentric rings pulsing outward. The energy surrounding him manifested not as an aura of power but as depth incarnate, a window into infinite potential. The effect on the converging realities was immediate and profound. The fractures didn't heal but rather synchronized, their chaotic energy patterns aligning with the harmonizing influence of Goku's transformation. The various versions of the probability core visible through the fractures began pulsing in unison, creating a multiversal resonance pattern. Quantum coherence establishing across multiple timelines, Kamine announced, her voice filled with scientific awe as she monitored the effects through her interface. He's creating a harmonic convergence point rather than a destructive one. Whis nodded in approval, though concern remained evident in his ancient eyes. Stabilizing rather than separating the realities. Fascinating approach. With newfound perception, Goku extended his awareness through the synchronized fractures, sensing the variations of the same location across different timelines. In one reality, Universe 3 had evolved toward biological integration rather than pure technology. In another, they had transcended physical form entirely to become beings of pure data. In yet another, they had merged with a neighboring universe to create an entirely new civilization. So many different possibilities, Goku marveled, his voice carrying unusual depth and resonance in the transformed state, all existing simultaneously. That's the nature of the multiverse, Chronoa confirmed, studying him with scientific interest. What's unusual is your ability to perceive them directly, and apparently, to influence their interaction. As stability slowly returned to the probability core, Goku maintained the true limit breaker transformation with surprising ease. Unlike the strain of his previous forms, This state felt natural, as if he were finally existing as his true self rather than artificially enhancing his capabilities. Kamine approached cautiously, her cybernetic eye whirring continuously as it gathered data. Your quantum state defies all established models, she observed with poorly concealed excitement. You're simultaneously existing in multiple probability states while maintaining singular consciousness. It's revolutionary. Goku smiled, the expression somehow both familiar and profoundly changed. It feels different this time. Not like fighting to maintain a form, but just being. Precisely as the Mystic Order teachings predicted, Ayana noted with quiet satisfaction. True mastery comes not from dominance but harmony. Solaria, ever practical, interrupted their philosophical moment. The dimensional fractures have stabilized but not closed, she pointed out. We've bought time, nothing more. Correct assessment. See, aim a new voice from one of the larger fractures, a voice that sent chills through everyone present. Through the reality breach stepped a figure they'd encountered once before, the Shadow Goku, wearing its unsettling approximation of Goku's form like an ill-fitting garment. Its movement remained too fluid, too precise, lacking the distinctive fighter's gait of the original. Its eyes, completely black, with no whites or pupils, surveyed them with cold interest. Catalyst, it greeted Goku, using the same term as before. Your mastery progresses, as does our purpose. Goku stepped forward protectively, placing himself between the entity and his companions. In his transformed state, he perceived the shadow self more clearly, not merely a doppelganger but a quantum negative, composed of possibility. Goku had rejected or had yet to explore. What exactly is your purpose? Goku demanded, his transformed voice carrying unusual authority. The shadow's face formed that unsettling smile that never reached its eyes. Balance, consequence, necessity. It gestured toward the stabilized fractures. You harmonize, we disrupt. You preserve, we dissolve. The equation must balance. Catalyst. It's drawing energy from the dimensional fractures, Whis observed, staff raised defensively. Using the convergence to manifest more fully in this reality. Indeed, the Shadow Goku appeared more substantial and during their first encounter, less a silhouette and more a complete entity, though still wrong in countless subtle ways. The timeline variants provide abundant resources, the Shadow confirmed, its black gaze moving to Kamine with uncomfortable interest. So many possibilities to explore, so many versions to incorporate. The cybernetic woman instinctively stepped back, her organic eye widening with genuine fear. Your quantum signature is inverted, she realized. You're composed of negative probability states. A crude but adequate assessment, the Shadow acknowledged. Without warning, it moved, not teleporting but somehow shifting location through dimensional rather than physical space. One moment it stood meters away, the next directly before Kamine, its hand extended toward her cybernetic components. Goku reacted with transcendent speed, interposing himself between them. Unlike their previous encounter on Beerus's planet, he now faced the Shadow as an equal, transformed and aware, rather than confused and unprepared. Whatever you're planning stops now, Goku stated with uncharacteristic firmness. The Shadow paused, its head tilting at that unnatural angle. Interesting. You protect this one already. How quickly attachments form. Its black eyes narrowed slightly. She is not even from your universe, Catalyst. Her fate should mean nothing to you. That's where you're wrong, Goku replied, his transformed consciousness allowing him to articulate concepts he might previously have only felt instinctively. Being from different universes doesn't make us separate, it just means we've experienced different possibilities of the same existence. The philosophical depth of this statement momentarily surprised everyone, none more than Goku himself. The true limit breaker form was clearly enhancing not just his physical capabilities but his perception and understanding as well. The Shadow studied him with renewed interest. Evolution accelerates. Good. It stepped back, eating distance not through conventional movement but through some form of dimensional shifting. Your understanding grows, but remains incomplete. When next we meet, Catalyst, bring greater mastery. The true test approaches. Before anyone could respond, the Shadow self fragmented into particles of anti-light, dispersing through the dimensional fractures surrounding them. As it disappeared, the fractures themselves began to stabilize further, their edges growing less distinct. It was destabilizing the convergence point deliberately, Chronoa realized, consulting her temporal device. Maintai, ning the breaches to facilitate its manifestation in our reality. Which means what, exactly? Solaria demanded, her military mind seeking tactical implications. It means, Whis translated gravely, that these convergence points serve dual purposes, allowing Goku's true limit breaker form to stabilize realities while simultaneously providing access points for his shadow self to enter those same realities. Kamin, recovering from her close encounter with the entity, returned to her holographic interface with renewed urgency. The quantum fluctuations are normalizing, but residual temporal distortions remain active. Her fingers flew across the controls with practiced efficiency. I can establish a more permanent stabilization algorithm now that I have your transformation data to work with, she added, glancing at Goku with undisguised scientific fascination. How long will that take? Chronoa inquired, moving to join her at the console. Approximately 17 minutes, Kamin replied precisely, assuming no further dimensional anomalies interrupt the calibration sequence. As the others gathered around the holographic interface, discussing technical details of reality stabilization, Goku remained slightly apart, examining his transformed state with newfound awareness. The true limit breaker form felt different from any previous transformation, not a temporary power-up but a fundamental shift in his very being. Ayana approached quietly, studying him with those perceptive amber eyes. You're beginning to understand it now, she observed. The form is merely the visible aspect of a much deeper change. Goku nodded, watching the unusual energy flow around and through his hands. It's like, I've been seeing everything flat my whole life, and suddenly everything's three-dimensional. He paused, struggling to articulate concepts beyond his usual vocabulary. No, that's not quite right. It's more like I can see in all dimensions at once now. The mystic order called this state, cosmic awareness. Ayana explained, her tone softening with evident respect for his achievement. Few attained even glimpses of it, even after decades of training. Yet you've accessed it in days. Not through any special wisdom, Goku admitted with characteristic humility. Just desperation and good teachers. He glanced at her with genuine gratitude. Their moment of connection was interrupted by Solaria, who approached with measured steps, her aristocratic features set in professional assessment. Your control has improved significantly, she acknowledged. Though your combat application remains untested. Is fighting all you think about? Ayana asked with thinly veiled irritation. Is philosophy all you consider? Solaria countered smoothly. The shadow entity made its intentions clear. Conflict is inevitable. Goku must be prepared to utilize this form in combat, not merely meditation. Despite their obvious tension, Goku recognized the validity in both perspectives. You're both right, he interceded diplomatically. I need to understand this form completely and learn to apply it effectively. He looked between them, his transformed perception allowing him to sense the genuine concern beneath their professional exteriors. I appreciate your help, both of you. His sincere acknowledgement temporarily diffused their rivalry. Before further discussion could develop, Kamin called from the console. Stabilization complete. The convergence point is now self-regulating. She turned toward them, her organic eye bright with intellectual triumph while her cybernetic components pulsed with satisfied blue light. I've established a harmonic algorithm based on your transformation frequency, she explained to Goku. It essentially creates a quantum echo of your energy C.G nature that maintains dimensional coherence. Impressive work, Whis acknowledged. Particularly given the limited tools at your disposal. Limited. Kamin repeated incredulously, gesturing around at the advanced probability core. This is the most sophisticated quantum processing system in 3 universes. As I said, Whis replied with angelic composure, limited. Before Kamin could formulate an appropriately indignant response, Chronoa's temporal device emitted an urgent series of tones. Her youthful face grew serious as she studied the incoming data. Another convergence point is forming, she announced gravely. And this one is problematic. Define problematic, Solaria requested, immediately alert. Chronoa's ancient eyes reflected genuine concern as she looked up from her device. It's forming at the remnants of the Tournament of Power arena. A heavy silence fell over the group as they processed this information. The Tournament of Power no longer exists, Goku pointed out carefully. It was dismantled after Universe 7-1. In this timeline, yes, Chronoa confirmed. But the convergence is drawing together multiple temporal variants, including those where the tournament had different outcomes or continued under different rules. Multiple versions of the most powerful fighters across all universes, Whis translated, his usually placid expression troubled. Potentially encountering alternates of themselves in a location specifically designed for combat. A powder keg, Solaria concluded grimly. Kamine, who had been rapidly analyzing data on her personal interface, looked up sharply. If my calculations are correct, a convergence point of that magnitude could trigger a cascade effect through connected timelines. Her voice held none of its previous enthusiasm, only professional concern. We need to stabilize it immediately. Agreed, Chronoa said, already opening a swirling portal of emerald energy. Everyone through, quickly. We need to end this before combat erupts between timeline variants. As the others moved toward the portal, Kamine hesitated, conflict evident in her expression. I should remain here to monitor the stabilization algorithms, she began. Though her gaze followed Goku with unmistakable interest. Your expertise would be valuable at the new convergence point, Whis suggested diplomatically. Particularly your ity to analyze quantum fluctuations in real time. This professional justification seemed to satisfy her scientific integrity. Well, when you put it that way, my presence is practically mandatory, Kamine concluded. Quickly gathering several small devices from nearby consoles. For research purposes, of course. Of course, Ayana murmured with knowing skepticism that earned her a sharp look from the cybernetic scientist. As they prepared to depart, Goku maintained his true limit breaker form with surprising ease. The transformation that had initially seemed so elusive now felt like his natural state, as if he'd finally discovered his true potential after years of approximating it through various forms. One by one, they stepped through Chronoa's portal, emerging onto a sight both familiar and utterly wrong, the Tournament of Power Arena, floating in the void beyond time and space. But unlike Goku's memories of the original structure, this version appeared fundamentally unstable. Portions of the fighting platform shifting between different architectural styles, some areas crumbling into nothingness while others manifested from pure energy. Most disturbing were the combatants, fighters from various universes engaged in battles across the platform, many appearing as distorted versions of those Goku remembered. In one section, 3 different iterations of Jiren fought against each other with devastating power, in another. A version of Vegeta with the appearance and techniques of a god of destruction systematically eliminated opponents. Elsewhere, beings that resembled Universe 7F. IGHTERS but with fundamental differences traded devastating blows. Timeline variants, Chronoa confirmed, watching Goku's shocked expression. Versions of the tournament from realities where events unfolded differently. Some appear to be from timelines where the tournament never concluded, Whis observed. Others from realities where different universes survived. As they surveyed the chaotic battlefield, a familiar yet disturbing energy signature approached from behind. Turning, they found themselves facing a version of Frieza unlike any Goku had encountered, his form primarily golden but with patches of black and purple. As if multiple transformations had been imperfectly merged. Son Goku, this variant Frieza greeted with the tyrant's characteristic cultured malice. How interesting to find you here. Though you appear different from the version I recently killed. Before anyone could respond to this chilling statement, the variant Frieza's attention shifted to Goku's transformed state. His eyes widening with genuine shock. What is this form? It's neither god nor mortal. A calculating smile spread across his face. How delightful. A new power to acquire. He thinks you're a timeline variant. Solaria murmured to Goku, positioning herself strategically beside him. One from a reality he hasn't yet encountered. Let him, Goku replied quietly. Better than explaining the actual situation. The variant Frieza took a step forward, only to freeze suddenly, his body locking in place as if gripped by invisible force. Behind him materialized Vila, her crimson form somehow more substantial than before. The pinpoints of light in her eyes blazing with unusual intensity. Temporal anomaly contained, she stated flatly, her hand extended toward the paralyzed Frieza. Proceeding with reintegration. With a gesture that seemed to fold space rather than traverse it, Vila caused the variant Frieza to dissolve into particles of light that scattered into the surrounding void. Observer. Chronoa acknowledged with surprising respect. Your intervention exceeds authorized parameters. Parameters evolve as necessity dictates, Vila responded cryptically. The convergence accelerates beyond council projections. Quote, before further discussion could occur, the platform beneath them shuddered violently. Reality itself seemed to warp, the very fabric of space-time stretching like taffy pulled beyond tolerance. The convergence point is destabilizing, Kamine announced, her cybernetic eye whirring frantically as she analyzed the fluctuations. Multiple timelines collapsing into singularity. Throughout the arena, the variant combatants began to distort, some merging grotesquely with their alternate selves, others dissolving into constituent energy as their timelines collapsed. The sight was both fascinating and horrifying, a glimpse into the consequences of multiversal instability. We need to stabilize this immediately, Chrono urged, turning to Goku. Your true limb, it breaker form harmonized the previous convergence point. Can you attempt the same here? Goku nodded, centering himself in his transformed state. With practiced concentration, he extended his awareness beyond physical perception, sensing the chaotic energies of collapsing timelines surrounding them. Unlike the focused disturbance at the probability core, this convergence point was wildly unstable. Dozens of intersecting realities all competing for primacy. It's too chaotic, he realized, voice strained with effort. Too many different timelines, all pulling in different directions. Then don't try to harmonize all of them. Ayana suggested urgently. Establish a primary timeline and allow the others to realign with it naturally. Universe 7, primary continuity, Vila confirmed, her strange eyes fixed on Goku. Assert dominance, catalyst. With renewed focus, Goku concentrated on the timeline he knew, his original reality, with all its established history and connections. Rather than attempting to reconcile all variants simultaneously, he projected this single timeline with absolute clarity, allowing its frequency to resonate throughout the convergence point. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Throughout the arena, reality began reasserting itself, not as a perfect restoration of the original tournament, but as a stable integration of its most consistent elements. Vari, ant fighters who had been caught in the convergence found themselves gradually returning to their proper timelines, the connections between realities thinning but not severing entirely. It's working, Chronoa confirmed, monitoring the process through her temporal device. The primary timeline is reasserting dominance while maintaining connection threads with compatible variants. Quantum coherence, CE establishing across dimensional boundaries, Kamine added, her scientific detachment momentarily overwhelmed by genuine wonder. He's not just separating the timelines, he's creating a sustainable interface between them. As stability gradually returned to the tournament remnants, Goku maintained his focus with remarkable endurance. Unlike his previous transformations, which drained energy at prodigious rates, the true limit breaker form seemed to draw power from the very process of reality stabilization, as if the act of harmonizing dimensional energies somehow nourished the transformation itself. Through his expanded awareness, Goku suddenly sensed a familiar presence, powerful, proud, unmistakable even across dimensional boundaries. Vegeta, he murmured, his concentration momentarily disrupted. Indeed, across the stabilizing arena, a figure appeared through the thinning dimensional haze, the Prince of all Saiyans, though not precisely as Goku remembered him. This Vegeta wore armor similar to Beerus's attire, his body radiating destruction energy tempered by remarkable control. A timeline variant, Whis identified quietly. One where Vegeta apparently succeeded Lord Beerus as god of destruction. The variant Vegeta surveyed the chaotic scene with characteristic scowl, his eyes eventually finding Goku with unerring precision. Even across timelines, the connection between rivals remained unbroken. For a moment, recognition flashed in his eyes, not of Goku specifically, but of the significance his presence represented. With deliberate dignity, the destroyer Vegeta inclined his head slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement from one cosmic power to another. Then, with characteristic pride intact, he turned away, disappearing through a portal of his own making as the timelines see. Antinude separating under Goku's influence. The brief encounter, though wordless, left Goku strangely moved. Even across divergent realities, some connections transcended circumstance. As the last of the variant fighters disappeared, returning to their proper timelines, the tournament arena itself began to stabilize, not reconstructing fully but finding equilibrium as a dimensional nexus point, AM. Eating place between realities rather than a point of chaotic convergence. Remarkable, Chronoa breathed, ancient eyes wide with genuine amazement. You've created a controlled dimensional intersectee. A crossroads between compatible timelines. Is that good? Goku asked pragmatically, his transformed awareness beginning to recede slightly as the immediate crisis passed. Unprecedented, Whis corrected. Even the gods maintain strict separation between timeline variants. What you've created is something entirely new, a stable meeting point where different possibilities can coexist without catastrophic consequences. The implications are significant, Vila added, the pinpoints in her eyes pulsing with unusual intensity. The Council will require extensive reassessment of fundamental principles. Kamine approached Goku without her previous scientific detachment, genuine awe evident in her expression. You've basically created a quantum bridge between previously incompatible realities, she explained. Cybernetic components whirring excitedly, the applications are beyond anything we've conceptualized. As they discussed the implications of this development, Goku felt his transformation beginning to recede naturally, not from exhaustion but from completion of purpose. The deep purple of his eyes gradually returned to their natural black, the light-absorbing quality of his hair faded. And the profound aura of depth diminished until only traces remained. Sorry, he apologized as the others noticed the change. Still can't maintain it indefinitely. No apology needed, Ayana assured him. Genuine pride evident in her amber eyes. What you've accomplished here would exhaust even a master of the mystic order. Indeed, Solaria agreed with uncharacteristic warmth. Your control has progressed remarkably. Their rare moment of harmony was interrupted by a sudden dimensional distortion at the edge of the stabilized arena. Unlike the previous chaotic fractures, this disturbance appeared controlled. Deliberate, a precise tear in reality that opened like an obsidian flower blooming in the void. Through this perfectly formed breach stepped the Shadow Goku, its appearance significantly evolved from previous encounters. Where before it had seemed an imperfect copy, it now displayed disturbing uniqueness, its form similar to Goku's yet fundamentally altered, as if designated by someone who understood the concept of a Saiyan but interpreted it through alien perspective. Most notably, its previously empty black eyes now contained familiar concentric rings, purple like Goku's transformed state. But inverted in color pattern and rotating in the opposite direction. Catalyst, it greeted, its voice no longer merely a distorted version of Goku's but something with its own distinct timbre. Your work proves satisfactory. The framework establishes. Framework for what? Goku demanded, instinctively dropping into fighting stance despite his transformation having receded. The Shadow's face formed that unsettling smile. Convergence. Unification. Purpose. It gestured toward the stabilized dimensional nexus Goku had created. You build the bridges, we determine who crosses them. It's evolved. Whis observed with grave concern. Incorporating aspects of the true limit breaker form into its own structure. An inevitable development, Vila stated, her composed demeanor faltering slightly. Shadow selves evolve in response to their progenitors. As the catalyst advances, so too does his counterbalance. The Shadow surveyed them with those disturbing inverted eyes, its gaze lingering on each person in turn. The gathering continues as predicted. The mystic, the destroyer, the observer, the creator, its attention fixed particularly on Kamine. The innovator, unexpected but not unwelcome. Kamine stiffened under its scrutiny, her cybernetic components whirring defensively. Whatever cosmic horror show you're advertising, I'm not interested, she stated firmly. Though her organic eye betrayed genuine fear. Choice is illusion in convergence, the Shadow replied cryptically. All possibilities manifest eventually. It turned its attention back to Goku. Yo, you have created a nexus between timelines, Catalyst. Impressive. Now witness its purpose. With disturbing precision, the Shadow extended one hand toward the center of the stabilized arena. The dimensional energies Goku had carefully harmonized responded instantly, swirling into a new configuration. Not chaotic but precisely controlled, forming a window into another reality entirely. Through this Endao appeared a landscape none of them recognized, a world of crystalline forests and twin moons, beautiful yet clearly alien. Among these crystal trees moved figures with familiar silhouettes, Saiyans. Though different from any Goku had encountered, their culture and civilization apparently intact and thriving. Planet Sadala, Ayana whispered, recognition and longing evident in her voice. The Saiyan homeworld, not as it was, but as it might have been. One possibility among infinite variants, the shadow confirmed. A timeline where destruction never came, where potential flourished rather than perished. The vision shifted, showing other realities in rapid succession. Earth dominated by Frieza's empire, a universe where gods and mortals existed without hierarchy, a reality where technology and spirituality had merged into something transcendent. Convergence approaches not as catastrophe but culmination, the shadow explained, its inverted eyes fixed on Goku with something approaching genuine emotion. All possibilities merging toward optimal configuration. Optimal by whose definition? Solaria challenged, her aristocratic voice sharp with suspicion. By definition of necessary evolution. The shadow replied cryptically. The multiverse fragments unnecessarily. Separation serves no purpose but limitation. Chronoa stepped forward, her diminutive form radiating ancient authority. The boundaries between timelines exist for a reason. Convergence on the scale you're suggesting would collapse causality itself. Causality is a perspective, not a law, the shadow countered smoothly. The catalyst demonstrates this truth with every limit broken. Throughout this exchange, Goku had been silent, studying the shadow with newfound perception. Even without his transformation active, he sensed something beneath the entity's cryptic statements, a purpose beyond simple opposition or balance. You're not just my shadow, he realized suddenly. You're something else using that connection. For the first time, the shadow's composure faltered momentarily. The inverted rings in its eyes pulsed erratically before stabilizing. Perceptive. Catalyst. Evolution indeed accelerates. It inclined its head in what appeared to be genuine acknowledgement. We are shadow, yes, but also void. Also purpose. Also necessity. The Oblivion Council, Vila whispered, genuine fear evident in her voice. They're using the shadow as vessel. Not vessel, the shadow corrected. Partnership. Mutual necessity toward inevitable conclusion. Before further questions could be posed, the dimensional window collapsed suddenly. The carefully stabilized nexus point destabilizing once more. Throughout the tournament remnants, reality began fracturing again, not chaotically but with disturbing precision. As if being deliberately dismantled. It's collapsing the stable interfaces. Kamine shouted, her cybernetic eye flashing emergency warnings. Quantum resonance patterns are inverting. We need to leave immediately, Whis urged. Staff glowing defensively as reality unraveled around them. This destabilization is beyond conventional repair. Chronoa was already opening an emergency portal, her youthful face set with determination. Everyone through. Now, as they moved toward the escape portal, the shadow made no move to stop them. Instead, it watched with those unsettling inverted eyes, IT's final words following them through the dimensional breach. Progress continues, catalyst. 3 convergence points stabilized, 3 remaining. The pattern establishes. Prepare accordingly. They merged once more in Chronoa's timeless realm, the peaceful surroundings a stark contrast to the collapsing reality they'd just escaped. For several moments, no one spoke, each processing the disturbance implications of the shadow's statements and actions. 3 convergence points, Whis finally broke the silence. Universe 3's probability core, the tournament of power nexus, and the initial fracture at the sacred world of the Kai. 3 remaining, Chronoa added gravely. But where, and to what purpose? Vila stepped forward, her crimson form seeming less substantial than before, as if the encounter had drained her somehow. The Oblivion Council seeks what it has always sought, efficiency through unification. They believe the multiverse wastes cosmic energy maintaining separate timelines with redundant elements. So they want to, what? Merge all realities? Kamine asked, scientific curiosity temporarily overriding her concerns. Not merge, Vila corrected. Optimize. Selectively. Combine elements from across timelines to create what they consider ideal configuration. Playing gods beyond the gods, Solaria observed with evident disgust. Typical bureaucratic arrogance. Ayana, who had been quietly contemplative, suddenly looked to Goku with renewed concern. The shadow said you were establishing a framework, creating stable interfaces between timelines that they could then manipulate. Using me, Goku concluded, understanding dawning. My true limit breaker form doesn't just stabilize convergence points, it creates pathways they can exploit. But to what end? Whis questioned, his usual composure troubled. Even the Oblivion Council must recognize the catastrophic consequences of timeline manipulation on this scale. Vela's expression shifted subtly, the pinpoints in her eyes dimming momentarily. Unless they fear something worse, she suggested quietly. Something that necessitates drastic preventative measures. This ominous possibility hung in the air between them, lending new weight to an already grave situation. Theoretical concerns aside, Solaria interjected practically, we have immediate priorities. Goku must master his transformation completely, both to stabilize further convergence points and to confront his shadow self when inevitable confrontation occurs. Agreed, Ayana nodded. The Mystic Order techniques have proven useful, but clearly insufficient alone. He needs integrated training that addresses all aspects of this new form. Kamine, who had been analyzing data from her collected samples, looked up with characteristic enthusiasm despite the circumstances. I could design specialized training algorithms based on the quantum resonance patterns of recorded. With proper calibration, we could potentially isolate specific aspects of the transformation for focused development. Goku, who had been uncharacteristically quiet throughout these discussions, finally spoke. I appreciate everyone's ideas, but maybe we're overthinking this. His simple statement drew all eyes. This form isn't like my others, it's not about powering up or fighting better. It's about understanding, seeing connections I couldn't see before. And what connections do you see, Goku? Whis inquired gently. Goku looked around at the assembled group. Divine beings, warriors from across universes, scientists and mystics brought together by cosmic circumstance. That maybe this was supposed to happen. Not the dangerous parts, he clarified quickly, but the coming together. Different universes, different timelines, different approaches, all working together instead of separately. His simple wisdom drew contemplative silence from the others. Perhaps, Chronoa finally responded, ancient eyes thoughtful, there is merit in controlled convergence, if not in the form the Council envisions. Quote, a middle path, Ayana agreed. Not complete separation, not forced unification, but mindful connection. Quantum entanglement without collapsing wave functions. Kamine translated into her preferred technical language, nodding enthusiastically. Solaria remained skeptical, arms crossed defensively. Philosophical ideals mean nothing without practical implementation. That, Goku said with unexpected conviction, is where I come in. He stood straighter, decision made. I need to master this form completely, not just for fighting, but for understanding what it's really meant for. Bold confidence from someone who couldn't transform at will until today, Solaria noted, though her tone held more challenge than criticism. Goku grinned, some of his characteristic enthusiasm returning. I'm a quick study, and I've got great teachers. He looked meaningfully around the group. This simple acknowledgement smoothed Solaria's sharp edges slightly. Even Vela, typically impassive, showed something approaching approval in the subtle brightening of her eyelights. We should establish a training regimen immediately, Ayana suggested, already mentally strew. Turing Mystic Order exercises adapted to Goku's needs. After rest, Whis interceded firmly. Even with this new form's remarkable efficiency, Goku has stabilized two major convergence points in rapid succession. Recovery is essential before further advancement. Chronoa nodded in agreement. I'll use this interval to consult the Time Nest archives. There may be precedents or prophecies regarding these events that could provide guidance. And I, Kamine added enthusiastically, will analyze the quantum data I've collected to identify optimization pathways for the transformation process. Her cybernetic eye word as she already began preliminary calculations. As the group dispersed to their respective tasks, Goku found himself standing at the edge of one of Chronoa's crystalline lakes, gazing at his reflection in the timeless waters. The face that looked back appeared unchanged, yet he knew himself to be profoundly different, transformed not just in power but in perception. Soft footsteps approached from behind, and Ayana's reflection appeared beside his in the still water. Troubled thoughts? She inquired gently. Not troubled exactly, Goku replied, struggling to articulate his feelings. Just big. Everything feels bigger somehow. The universe has always been vast, Ayana noted. Your awareness of it has simply expanded. Yeah, Goku nodded, finding comfort in her simple understanding. It's like, I used to think about fighting and food and friends. Now I'm thinking about realities and connections and balance. Yet you remain yourself, she observed wisely. Your core remains unchanged despite the evolution around it. That is your greatest strength, Goku, consistency amidst transformation. Before he could respond to this insight, another reflection joined theirs in the crystalline waters, Solaria. Her aristocratic features composed yet somehow softer in this private moment. The mystic speaks truth, the former destroyer candidate acknowledged reluctantly. Your peculiar combination of simplicity and adaptability gives you unique advantage in facing these challenges. Goku turned to find both women standing beside him, their usual rivalry temporarily suspended in this moment of shared purpose. I couldn't do this alone, he admitted with uncharacteristic humility. Any of it, fortunately, came Kamin's voice as she approached from across the lake shore. Cybernetic components gleaming in the timeless light, you won't have to. Some challenges require interdisciplinary solutions. Despite her technical terminology, genuine warmth infused her tone. As the three women gathered around him, each representing vastly different approaches to power and knowledge, Goku felt an unusual sensation, not the adrenaline rush of battle or the comfortable familiarity of friendship, but something new, a connection that transcended ordinary relationship categories, born of shared purpose and mutual recognition of something extraordinary unfolding around them. In the still waters of the timeless lake, their four reflections seemed to ripple with possibilities, convergence points in their own right, separate lives intersecting at this cosmic crossroads. Unknown to them, from the shadows of an impossible angle, Vila observed this gathering with her strange, lightless eyes. The pinpoints within them pulsed with unusual rhythm as she whispered words meant for no ears but her own. The pattern establishes. The nexus forms. The council observes. She glanced upward, beyond the peaceful skies of Chronoa's realm, into the void between dimensions where ancient entities waited and watched. And so it begins. Blank, blank. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.